Former Presidents Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma and Kgalema Motlanthe have all expressed their disapproval of the Ramaphosa administration to some extent. Zuma has accused the current president, in fact, of corruption and treason for allegedly managing private businesses while in office. Mbeki, meanwhile, says the governing party must prepare itself for the possibility that Ramaphosa could face impeachment processes over the Phala Phala farm saga. Former President Motlanthe, meanwhile, has added his voice, saying that the country is in deep trouble and there's a need for new ideas. Let's talk about this with ANC Veteran Mavuso Msimang. Mr. Msimang, a very good afternoon to you and welcome back to Daytime Update. Is President Ramaphosa and his administration deserving of the public lashing?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and hello to your viewers. Three allegations are being made about former presidents accusing President Ramaphosa of corruption or saying nasty things about him. I would like to take them one at a time. Former President Jacob Zuma said this. I think it's been said before. Your president is corrupt, yet the busybodies and self-appointed anti-corruption crusaders and NGOs are dead silent. It's interesting to observe the silence about the many allegations of criminality against the current president. All the so-called civil society organizations that parade as defenders of the rule of law are nowhere to be seen, demanding accountability from him, accusing him of being corrupt and having committed treason. Now, so President Jacob Zuma clearly did say that President Ramaphosa is corrupt, but really, honestly, I think the impact on the incumbent president will be minimal, considering the person who is making the allegations. He is a person who spent over 10 years doing the best he could to avoid going to court to answer to allegations of corruption. Spent lots of money, many millions, avoiding to do that. So I think the impact of what he's saying, respectfully, is going to be absolutely minimal. Now, Motlanthe, at the forum that you referred to a little earlier before I started, he said the time for ideas and the time to exchange has never been more pressing for the survival of democracy and humanity than it is now. All markers point to a precipice, and from here, on the edge of the Drakensberg mountain, we observe how far the cliff edge falls for all. There is absolutely nothing in the statement, unless there is something else that was said, that accuses President Ramaphosa of corruption. The administration that he is in charge of is experiencing a lot of problems, and this is the subject of discussion by everybody, by the citizens, all the time, you know. So I don't see how he could be accused of having said the President Cyril Ramaphosa is corrupt. The statement he makes is really known to everybody. And also, there were people on the platform, among whom were Jonah and I think the guy who is dealing with Rivonia Sekle. They also made statements which are descriptive of what's going on in the country. I don't think any one of them would be accused of having said nasty things about the president. The last one was President Thabo Mbeki, who was invited by an ANC entity group called the Strategic Dialogue Group. This is a think tank in the ANC of people who were very active in the struggle during the UDF era. People who do have very good credentials, credible and so on. So President Thabo Mbeki said a lot of things that were hard-hitting, and some of which were a direct implication on the reputation, the prestige of President Ramaphosa. I don't think he said anything that is unknown by everybody in the country. But to be honest with you, I think these are comments, these are remarks that should have been made in-house to that group.
All right.
I'd really like to believe that he didn't know that they were being broadcast. I sympathize with people who say that put pressure and believe that the current president should not be accused in that manner. But these things can be discussed in-house, and also if the public must understand what's going on, I think another opportunity would be given, would have to be found to say the things that are being said. If
I may come in there, sir, I suppose it's one thing for the comments to be misinterpreted or even blown out of proportion, but you mentioned the issue of corruption, right, and how even in the Ramaphosa years, it remains a problem in government. But where he's concerned, whether right or wrong, he hasn't exactly led a path in the first term of his presidency where he himself has been unscathed. There was the issue of that R500,000 donation, campaign donation via Bosasa through his son, what he did and did not know, and whether when he answered Parliament, he answered truthfully. Yes, the report by the public protector was set aside because that's not within the office's mandate, right? You've got at the moment the issue to do with Phala Phala and the farm burglary, what he knew, whether there was a contravention of the country's foreign exchange control laws. He says he's done nothing wrong, but we don't know that for a fact. So it's quite difficult to remove him from that very pointed criticism, whether fair or unfair, when he too has had fingers of blame and suspicion pointed at him, right or wrong.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there is anything at all that was said by former President Mbeki that is unknown to the public that follows these things. I am of the view that I can appreciate the sensitivity around some of the things being said by a very respected former president, and being said in open forum. To be very honest, I think, you know, the point of their meeting, of him meeting the SDG, should have been to say this is the lie of the land in the country, but in particular the African National Congress. And he would share his wisdom on this and indicate, for instance, if one relates what he said to what would need to be done to, you know, the president. His fate is not in his hand now, the current president. There are investigations that are taking place and so on. And this would be a call to the people in the ANC to not just remain and be victims of fate, to see what they could do in the eventuality, in the event that this did happen. Okay. And he talked about slates, too, in the African National Congress, and he slated them, to coin a phrase. And I think the aim there would be to get people inside the ANC to find a way of making sure that people who want to be elected for leadership in the ANC do state, use the opportunity to state what you have to offer and maybe engineer such a discussion internally. Yeah.
I'd like to point you to the Strategic Dialogue Group statement out today. I'm just going to read it from my phone for you and our viewers. It says here that the SDG has noted the deliberate distortion of remarks made by former President Thabo Mbeki during the Strategic Dialogue Group annual general meeting held on the 22nd, which was Saturday. It says, contrary to the claim by some within the ANC, Mbeki did not attack President Ramaphosa. Rather, he called for a discussion on the possible impact of certain matters that are in the public domain on the ANC. And I wonder if those conversations at this point, given the level of distrust even among the ANC in what are supposed to be private meetings, it's not best off that these discussions happen publicly so we can all hear for ourselves what is said.
Well, that's a point of view. I must say, the stuff that's happening, which in the ANC, you know, it talks about renewal, criminals being involved in renewal and all of that. All of this is the truth. I think if the aim was to develop a discussion for these things to be addressed, coming from a person of his seniority, I'm saying I am sympathetic. The public must hear about these things at some time or another. But if any action were to be taken within the ANC, and he must not, Thabo does not assume that they are incapable of doing these things, but people must not keep on talking about renewal if it's meaningless, and he points out why. People must not go there and say, just choose me, and he points out why. This should generate action. That it's difficult, that people don't like one another right now, is beside the point. I am really saying, I don't want any of these things necessarily to be hidden from the public, but I do sympathize with people who say it's criticism that could have been conveyed internally.
So on the issue of people who are unfit to serve on the ANC's National Executive Committee, and least of all to serve in government as cabinet ministers, as raised by former President Mbeki, that's not a new criticism of the ANC. Has it worsened under President Ramaphosa?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat the question?
I was asking you about the election of unfit people to serve on the National Executive Committee and then subsequently to cabinet, as was touched on by former President Mbeki. It's not a new criticism of the ANC, is it? But has it got worse under Ramaphosa?
It's not... well, it's been getting worse since 1994. I mean, there's been a deterioration in the quality of leadership in the ANC because of unsuitable people being admitted into senior ranks of leadership, and then some of them going to be in the cabinet. Well, that's true. I don't even want to begin to debate the truthfulness of the things that President Mbeki said. I thought the people who are concerned are saying these things ought to have been handled internally.
What I was trying to get from you is whether it's actually got worse. Yes, it's not new, but has the party become even worse at managing the election of officials unfit? I mean, you look recently at the provincial elective conferences where people accused of corruption, murder, guilty or innocent, were the preferred candidates for even branch delegates for the ANC. So the problem runs much deeper than the top, does it not?
Well, there's no doubt about that. I personally have spoken to this when given a platform. It is a very worrying thing, and that is why the ANC is losing so much popularity, because people who have no competence, people who really don't know what they're doing, don't share the values of the ANC, are very much in top positions. And when people talk about renewal, it's almost a rubbish to hear a person you know is part of the problem, is implicated in crime, saying let's renew. And I think Mbeki's message directed internally to say, unless you rid yourselves of these things, unless you bite the bullet and say we can't renew with you, then it won't happen. Yes, the short answer is things have gotten worse. We do have people who are not fit for purpose.
On that note, then, you're going to a conference as the ANC in December. There will no doubt be other people elected, given past trends, who have, shall we say, a checkered past, right? If the ANC does not rid itself of all the problems as diagnosed by you and the former presidents, how much longer will it have, not only as a governing party, do you think, but as a strong political party, a force to be reckoned with in South Africa?
It's going to be very difficult. This problem does need to be addressed. You know, it really does, for the sake of the ANC, but also for the sake of South Africa. You've seen the alternative to the ANC. I'm not saying this is going to be a permanent situation which leads to coalitions which are so unstable, not based on any discernible principle. The ANC could still sort things out even with these slates that have not much meaning as far as many people are concerned. If the voice inside were to say, why don't you indicate, you guys, the membership would need to say that. That's why I'm saying this is an internal matter. What you stand for. We will vote for you in December. If you say, sure and so, Mina, what I see as a problem in this country is too much crime. And so if I'm on the NEC or in I'm a president or in the top 6, I would focus my attention on that. Similarly, gender-based violence and violence in general, these things are bugging. This is what people are talking about all the time. Please, so create conditions for people who are going to be there in December to have a reason to vote for the people who are on the slates now. It can be done if they have the courage, if people are not too arrogant to accept that really people don't elect you because you have been in the ANCs, since Jesus was a boy,
Mavuso Msimang, ANC veteran. I'm sure we'll be speaking a lot more to you as that conference edges closer. But for today, thank you very much for your time, sir.